previous video, we discussed about what is transclusion and how the transclude function works. In this video, we are going to discuss a bit more about transclude function and see on how it can really transform into a clone linking function. So a bit more about transclude function. So there are two flavors of a transclude function and how you can really use it as part of your development. The first one is transclude with no callback function. So you can see if you just use a transclude function with no parameters here, then we call that one as transclude with no callback function, or in simple with no clone linking function. So this is just a plain transclude function. And what does it do? It will be mainly used whenever you would not like to use ng-transclude as part of your template. So if you have your template and that particular template doesn't have ng-transclude, and if you'd like to have more control over how the transcluded content to be injected into your template, then you will be using transclude. So there will be certain conditions when and where you would like to have your transcluded content to be injected into your template without really using ng-transclude. So that is where you will be using your transclude function. And whenever you use a transclude function, it actually creates an instance of transcluded content. So whatever the content you provide as part of your directive, and if you'd like to have that content to be injected into your template, it has to be transcluded. So which means that transcluded content is going to be created in the form of an instance. So that whole content will be actually created in the form of an instance, and that instance is usually a jQuery DOM element in general, and that particular instance will be created by this transclude function, and that instance contains all the transcluded content which needs to be injected as part of your template. And it creates the instance if and only if it was never created earlier. So imagine you are executing this transclude function for the first time, then only it actually creates the instance of that transcluded content. If you never used the transclude, it creates for the first time. But if you are already using the transclude content for more than once, it actually tries to reuse the existing instance which has been created earlier. So which means if you call transclude for the first time, it creates an instance. If you call the transclude for the second time, it doesn't create an instance, but it actually reuses the already existing created instance. And it will be reusing, which means it will be applying the same instance to your template. And it is not just creating the instance, but it also creates the transclusion scope, which we are going to cover in next video. So I'm not going to focus on what exactly is transclude scope at the moment, but just for your information, it is just the scope for the transcluded element, whatever it has created. And a transclude function actually creates an instance of transclude content and also the transclusion scope. So this is a simple way of how you can define a transclude function, and that too with no callback function. And there is another flavor which I wanted to discuss about the transclude function, that is a transclude function with callback. So here we do not have a callback, but in this case we have a callback. So which means you can provide some kind of callback function here. And there is no difference. This is also going to be used whenever you would not really want to use any kind of ng-transclude or any other your own directive for the transclusion. So if you'd like to have more control, you can use either of these two flavors. And no difference either here. So it will be creating an instance if it was never created earlier. So the transcluded content, whatever you provide as part of your template, needs to be injected into some other template. So it creates an instance of that transcluded content and gets the jQuery DOM element out of it, which can be used to inject to any other template in the target. Now this is where the real difference is. That is, in this case it reuses the existing instance if it has been created, but in this case it clones it. So which means every time you use a transclude with a callback function, it tries to create an instance if not already existing. But if the instance is already made available earlier or created earlier, it actually clones that instance and reuses, or say just uses the cloned instance. So we'll have to make sure that whenever you use transclude callback with a callback function, every time you use this statement, you are guaranteed to get a new clone out of your transcluded content along with the new transclusion scope. So every instance or every clone, whatever you are going to get out of this transclude with the callback function, you are going to have a new transcluded scope also. So in this case, there will be only one scope, as because there will be only one instance. In this case, every time you use transclude, we are going to have a new instance to be created, or a new clone will be created from an existing instance along with the transclusion scope for the new instance or the new clone. So it is better to understand from the coding perspective on how these two differentiate each other. So let us check. Okay, there's one more. So whenever you use this transclude with the callback function, that is where you will be calling that one as clone linking function. So a clone linking function means just the plain transclude function, however with a callback function. So whenever you use that, we can call that you are really using a clone linking or attaching function. Okay, so let us jump into code. So this is a simple HTML, and currently I have the ng controller named as sample, and you can see the sample controller currently having no information here, but currently it is just displaying a message called this is controller. So let me go back here, and you can see once we press F5 here, we are going to see this is controller right there. And let us enhance this and check the first version of the transclude, that is with no callback function. So I go back to my JavaScript here, and let me create a directive, and I would like to call this directive as something like message1. Okay, and I would like to return the template. So in this case, I would like to have the template to be made available through an URL, so which means a separate file, and I would like to call this one as message1.html. So which needs to be created right here. So I would like to call this one as message1.htm. So this is my template which will be used for my directive. So all I would like to have is a div, and I would like to call something like this is from message1 template, and the following is inner content. So this is just a plain message, and I would like to have another div with an ID called inner panel, and I would like to have some style so that we can differentiate the transcluded content. So I would like to use blue color for this one, and any of the transcluded content needs to be in blue color, which means it is expected to be injected right here. So I go back here, and I would like to use my directive, and I just wanted to provide some message here and a separator so that we know what's going on. So message1, and I would like to use div, and the directive what I'm going to use is message1. So you can see I have the message1 directive right here, and I'm going to use the same thing. And as part of this particular directive, I would like to have some transcluded content. So which means I would like to have some content in this div which needs to be transcluded into this particular template, msg1.html. So I would like to say something like this is inner message. So the goal is to have this particular message. So this is the content which needs to be injected right into this. So that was our goal. So let me go back to my template here, my JavaScript. And the first thing I have to use is transclude. So I have to say, like, I would like to have the transcluding mechanism to be made available. So which means current directive supports transclusion. That's what I'm saying. And I would like to have the controller, that is the directive controller, to be used here with all the necessary parameters. So which means it is expected to have the scope, element, attributes, and the transclude function. So this is the function we were discussing about. So this will be automatically passed by AngularJS framework, and we are going to use the same function right here. So at this moment, what I would like to say is, I would like to access my element, that is, I would like to get access to this guy, and in order for that it should be automatically available as part of my element, and I am going to say $element dot find inner panel 1 dot append. And now I would like to have the transclusion to be happening, so which means I would like to execute my transclude function with no callbacks right here. So whenever I execute this, what happens is that it actually gets the content. So this is the content which will be automatically instantiated, extracted and instantiated, and finally injected into this one. So you can say I'm just saying append into the content of inner panel 1, which is nothing but this guy. So into this div I am saying that please append something inside it. So this is where we are supposed to have that content to be transcluded. So let us see if this is working. However, there is a mistake. It doesn't look like it's working. Okay, I missed this. It has to be inner panel. So let me just press F5, and now you can see I have this is inner message. So in that way we have our message one directly from our markup, and this is from our template, and this is the transcluded content. So we have everything in place. Now for a change, I would like to have a new inner panel to be created. So I would like to say, I would like to rename this one to inner panel 1 and this one to inner panel 2. So I have two inner panels. So just for our differentiation, I would like to have this one to be red instead of instead of blue, so that we'll have a better understanding. So in this case, if I say inner panel 2, which means our content is supposed to be placed inside inner panel 2. So which means the content should be in red color now. So if I press F5, now you can see I have in red color, but we have nothing in blue, as because you can see as part of this we are not placing anything into the first panel, we placed into 2. So if I go in here and just use inner panel 1 and comment the other, now you should be able to see the content to be actually put inside inner panel 1, which is nothing but blue. So similarly, if I comment this and if I uncomment this one, it is going to be red. So no issues. So everything is working perfectly fine. But now let us consider I am uncommenting both. So what I'm saying is that I wanted to execute transclude, which means the content will be extracted, instantiated, and placed into this one. Okay, and I'm again saying that it has to exclude and instantiate and get back into panel 2. So let us see what happens at this moment. So I go back here, press F5. Now you can see I do not see the blue message. I only see red message. But if you go back to my JavaScript, you can see I placed this content into the blue as well and also into the red. But it doesn't work like that, because if you see my presentation, it reuses if it has already created an instance. So if an instance is already available, it's not going to create a new one. So it is going to be reused. So in this case, what it says is that, first of all, it is already appending into the inner panel 1 first with no issues. It has done it. But the issue is that once you say this statement, it actually removes whatever it has appended in inner panel 1 and injects into panel 2. So thereby we are going to see only the transcluded content in inner panel 2, but not in panel 1, because it has been removed from panel 1. Even though it has been added in this statement, it has been removed and re-added into the inner panel 2. So the outcome of this one is we are going to see the content only in inner panel 2, but not in inner panel 1. So whenever you use transclude with no callback, it is going to be good. However, if not in multiple transclusion elements. So if you'd like to have the transcluding content to be made available in multiple locations, then this might not be the right way to do. So you might need to use, which is clone linking function. So in order to test this one, let us create another directive, and I would like to call this one as message2, and I just wanted to remove all of this so that it will be completely clean. And let me create another, and I would like to say message2 here, and I'm going to say I'm using message2 here as well. So which means I'm using the second directive. So what is so special about this second directive? So instead of using transclude with no callback, I would like to use transclude with callback. Essentially, you want it to use clone linking function. So from now onwards, instead of calling transclude with callback, I would like to call that one as clone linking function. So let us see how this is going to work. So I'm going to use still transclude, and it is going to have a callback function to be provided, and I'm providing the same here. However, for this function, it actually sends the instance whatever it has cloned or created. So in my previous presentation, you can see actually I said whenever you use this, it actually clones an existing instance if it is already there. So that cloned instance or that created instance will be automatically passed to you in the form of transcluded element. So this is a jQuery object. So we can use this particular object directly as part of our dollar element. So I can now say, please go in here. And now I'm going to say append my transcluded element, which is nothing but this guy. So what I'm saying is that whenever I use this, get a new instance and send it to this one. So which means it will be sent to this and that will be appended to this. If you want in some other location, use the same thing. And instead of inner panel 1, I'm going to use inner panel 2. So each time you use this content linking function, you are getting a new clone of this element, which will be particularly used for that application of that function execution. So I just press F5 here, and now we should be able to see that particular transcluded content being made available in multiple locations of the target template. So this is what is really about clone linking function. So which means it clones while it tries to transclude the content of the original template.